Two Kids and a Career is a production of Jill Devine Media.
The thing about fireworks is they are like so many other things. I mean, there's lots of ways for kids to get hurt. They can be beautiful. I mean, we've all seen, just these amazing fireworks displays, and they can bring people to tears. And like anything, like cars and bikes and skateboards and all that, there's safety that you need to take care of. There's training. People need to have their wits about them. And for certain things, there needs to be parental supervision until they're a certain age. And for me, that age is probably 12.
Two Kids and a Career is brought to you by Blondin Real Estate. They're a family-owned boutique-style brokerage with over 40 years of experience serving the counties that surround St. Louis. See the properties they have to offer at blondinrealestate.com. That's blondinrealestate.com. Hi there, and welcome to Two Kids and a Career. I'm Jill Devine. As an entrepreneur, wife, and mama, the daily grind of trying to build a business while taking care of kids and trying to maintain a healthy connection with my hubby, it's a lot. With this podcast, you're going to hear candid conversations with other moms, parenting experts who can share their knowledge and insight, or you'll just hear me rambling to get it all out. There's going to be tears, there's going to be laughter, but most importantly, there will be support. Take a listen and connect with me so we can grow and learn from one another. This is Two Kids and a Career. This episode is a little bit different than some previous episodes because I'll first say that I don't have a ton of men on the podcast, not because I discriminate, but sometimes the mommy talk just takes over. So one of the first differences this week is a man. And we have a man joining us today on the podcast. Rob Cima, welcome to Two Kids and a Career.
Thanks, Jill. Happy to be here. Happy to represent the men.
Well, that's what I love. Like, again, I try not to, discriminate. It just so happens that, mommy talk just kind of takes over and, but you are a dad, so we can talk daddy talk. And the other reason why this episode is a little different is it's because we are talking about something that we haven't ever really talked about on the podcast. And it's about firework safety. And I know at first, and I'll be honest, like when you first think about that and think about your guests and you're like, what are you talking about? And then you start thinking about your kiddos and even your pets. Like I remember before kids, just getting lots of great information from local resources like the Humane Society, and different organizations like Gateway Pet Guardians, where they provided pet owners with some amazing information about safety when it comes to fireworks and their pets. And again, I could say, maybe at first you might be like, why should I read this? And then until you dive into it and you think about it, you're like, oh, yeah, this is kind of a big deal. So I wanted to invite you on to talk about that because we're only a few days away from 4th of July. Some people love 4th of July. Some people hate 4th of July because of the fireworks. And I don't want that to be the case for a lot of people if we can help them. And then we're also going to talk about what you are doing with Sky Wars and the 16th Annual Fireworks Championship coming up on Saturday, September 25th. But let's first go back to Daddy and Rob as a father. Tell me about your family dynamics.
Well, I have 3 kids. I have a 16-year-old daughter, a 13-year-old daughter, and an 11-year-old son.
Well, how are those teenage years going?
I really thought the problems were big 5 years ago. And of course now, we've got a driver and that has its whole set of issues and concerns. And every time she leaves, even though she's a great driver, she has really exceeded my expectations in that area. But, every time she gets in the car, part of me's worried.
Yeah. How do you control that though? Like, what do you do?
I don't. I mean, at this point, I don't know there's a whole lot I can do. We taught her how to drive. She's very responsible. She got herself a job, and we just have to rely on the work we've done up to this point. And of course, like many, we have Life 360, and we she needs to be home at a certain time. There's not just driving around to wherever you want to go. We kind of want to know where you're going to be, and you can go somewhere else. We just want to know if you're going to be somewhere besides where you said you were going to be. And as long as you do that in advance, we're all good.
So there's obviously lots of conversation and communication and like, hey, this is what we expect. But the way that you're approaching it is, I would think, the way that how she perceives it, if that makes sense. Like, if you're not talking to her and communicating with her, she may not be as receptive. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I think that's right. Sometimes I think she feels like we're controlling her, and
Yeah.
wanting to know where she is, and that's it's completely natural, right? I mean, she's
Right.
16. In 2 years, she's going to college. She's not going to be under our roof anymore. And I've heard some friends with older kids who've said to me on numerous occasions, by the time they're driving, you're done. You're not going to see them. They're at school. She drives herself to and from school. If she has lacrosse practice after school, she takes herself there. She drives herself to her job. We are a family. We try to have dinner at home 5 nights a week together as a family.
Mm-hmm.
And so I see her there. I see her in the morning, but the amount of time I spend with her is nothing like it was even a year ago before she started driving. So that's been a big adjustment for us.
And what about the middle daughter? And like, how is she reacting to all of it? Do you notice, or indifferent?
I think she gets to ride with her sister, so I think she's enjoying a level of freedom she
Ah.
didn't have before as well. 13's a weird age. My happy love dad daughter, we still have a great relationship, but the 13 moodiness has definitely kicked in. Wants to spend a lot more time in a room, doors closed a lot, and she's just in there listening to music or doing what teenagers do, which is trying to figure out how to be independent. Yeah.
Well, what's the relationship like with mom, though? Because I have heard this from a father where he said when his daughter, like literally like what you just said, like it was, inseparable and they were really great buds. And then she got into her teenage years and he was like, I didn't know what to do with myself. And I would keep finding myself going outside her room, like, hey, do you need me? And she didn't need me, and I needed to figure that out. And I had asked the same question. I said, well, what about mom? And he's like, oh, they fight all the time, but in a
Right.
fight like, that mother-daughter relationship, but they're the best of friends. And he's like, it's hard, but those two, they know to say like, okay, everything's fine, and they can go shopping together.
Right. Yeah. I would say that in many ways, mom's the confidant for both the girls. So they'll have conversations with her that they will definitely not have with me.
Right.
However, they don't fight with me either. And there's some knockdown, drag out happening. And I just try to stay out of the way.
You're like in the back, just like, I'm going to eat my popcorn.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. This is a good time for me to go back to my my man cave.
Oh, yeah. I'm not looking forward to that. I have a 4 and a 2-year-old, and I hear that a lot. And I'm like, oh, just one day at a time. Okay. So now tell me about your son. And I mean, I don't want to assume, but is the relationship, well, obviously it's different, but do you feel like at this age you guys are a little bit closer than he is with mom? Or, I mean, how is that?
Yeah, definitely. He wants to spend a lot of time with me now. So he's, at 11, it's all about, dad, let's do this, let's do that. And I try to have a policy of saying yes. Whenever he
Yeah.
says, Dad, do you want to do X? Even if I really don't want to do whatever it is. Yeah, but let's do it. Give me 5 minutes. Like, but he definitely, we've got a good relationship. He wants to do stuff with me now. And really, I mean, as a dad, my experience with it, and I know not everyone's is the same, but when he was little, 2, 4 years, that age, I kind of didn't know what to do with them, especially at 2 and younger, little baby. As a dad, I'm like, this is all about mom and I don't really know what to do. Then later they start talking and they're asking questions and they want to be outside and they want to know what that tool is you're working with. And now at 11, he's in the Scouts and I help him with Scouts. I'm in the Scout troop. And, we're teaching how to do knots. We're lighting fires. We're doing campfire cooking. And so it's just, my middle daughter actually happens to be in Scouts as well. I don't, they've changed the rules now, and girls can be in as well. So I've got two kids. But the boy is just wanting to do stuff with dad. The girl wants to do it too. She loves outside. She doesn't want dad's help though. She's part of that is, her being 13 and being independent and not needing me.
Well, when you were talking about the two and like, what do you do with them? Well, I often hear people say, like, when they start getting fun, when they kids start talking, and
Right.
like, that's when, a lot of times, whether it's mom or dad, they start to kind of get that bond going. So that kind of sounds like what happened with you.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, let's talk about the kiddos, as far as not just your kiddos, but everyone's kiddos, and firework safety, because I want to bring up something that I don't know how old I was, but it's definitely stuck with me. And it's probably why I do not like fireworks to this day. So I remember my parents having, I don't even know if it was necessarily on 4th of July, but some sort of celebration. And they had lined the driveway up with sparklers. And everything was great, what have you. Well, the sparklers were done, and I was going to be such a huge help and help clean up the sparklers. Well, it was dark. So I grabbed one of the sparklers on the top and to get it out of the grass, and burned my
Ouch.
hand. Yeah. And I remember running. I didn't even want my mom or my dad. I wanted my grandma. And I remember running straight to my grandma, like crying. And I think what she did, and this is an old school thing, and maybe I don't know, it's kind of, yeah, again, fuzzy, but I feel like she was like, we need butter. We need to put some butter on. Which, from my understanding, that was definitely an old school
Yeah, at least you didn't say
remedy.
we're going to get a leech or something. I mean,
So I remember that, and I can say that ever since then, I'm a little scared, and I don't want anything to do with them. I try with my girls, especially the 4-year-old. I mean, sparklers, she's been introduced to them, and I just like, pull it away from you. I watch what you're doing. Don't hurt one another. But I also don't want to put this fear into her, and just make it be, I don't know. Like, I don't really know what the right way is. Like, I don't want her to experiment with fire, but you know what I mean? Like, I just don't know. I don't really know how to handle it.
right. Well, I mean, the reason that I know something about the fireworks is it started for me as a kid. So I was 5 years old probably, and my dad said he handed me a firecracker and a lit Salem Light cigarette, and said, "Go out there, light that firecracker." And yeah, which I think about today, as the vice president of the Missouri Pyrotechnics Association. I'm not sure I would do that. Well, first of all, I don't smoke, so that's one thing. But it's a different time.
Right.
The thing about fireworks is they are like so many other things. I mean, there's lots of ways for kids to get hurt. And you talk about your 4-year-old with the sparkler. It's like a knife. You wouldn't give your 4-year-old a knife and let him run around with it. So it requires supervision. They can be beautiful. I mean, we've all seen just these amazing fireworks displays, and they can bring people to tears.
Mm-hmm.
And like anything, like cars and bikes and skateboards and all that, there's safety that you need to take care of. There's training. People need to have their wits about them, and for certain things, there needs to be parental supervision until they're a certain age. And for me, that age is probably 12.
Okay.
Or older. I mean, I have my 11-year-old. He's not. I'm not going to let him just go and be messing around with fireworks without me being around and kind of keeping an eye on him. He's pretty sophisticated. He's been around it for a while now, and so. He knows what he's doing, and I don't have to pay as close attention as I did when he was younger. But
Okay.
I'm still
Got
not.
it.
I'm still not going to go inside and if he's having fireworks.
I mean, like you said, you wouldn't just give your kid a knife. You have to supervise. Are there any other tips that you would provide so mamas like me aren't, aren't
Yes,
so crazy?
I definitely would. I mean, the parental supervision's a lot. So, most of the accidents that happen are they're burns, as you can imagine, like the one that you had when you were
Mhm.
a child. And really, sparklers are a lot of the injuries. Those things get up to 2,000 degrees.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Right? Really hot. So, you wouldn't have the 4-year-old like playing if they were near a fire or a campfire. You would be pulling them back. And really that spark was hotter than campfire in some ways. So it's just something that I think people don't realize just how, just
Yeah,
what
then why do we do that? Why do we think that that's
I don't know. They're beautiful and they're fun. And I think people, they don't have the education about it. And it's actually simple. There's a handful of things you can do, and I'll talk about those. But, like me and like you, it was a different time. And, when we were kids and played with fireworks, people just didn't pay as close attention to that. And, and as a result, people do get hurt. In fact, 243 people go to the emergency room every day during the 4th of July season for a firework related injury. Now, as a percentage, far more people go to the emergency room for riding a bike or being in a car. And I mean, there's other things that are actually more dangerous. But that's 243 people too many, and much of it is preventable.
got
So
it.
that's part of what we're here to do at the Missouri Pyrotechnics Association, is to help people enjoy the safe and artful use of fireworks, because it can be beautiful and fun if you just do a few simple things.
I was thinking a couple things like when me being like, "Oh, well, I don't want her to have a sparkler now that I know this," and then I can hear some people in this other ear going, "Oh my gosh, why do you have to be so overprotective and let kids be?" But uh, if we what is wrong with educating ourselves and just saying, "Hey, this is not the safety route that I want to go, and I want to prevent my child from not getting burned. So suck it, basically." Like, I don't know. I like, could picture how this conversation could go about, if you know what I mean.
Right. Yeah. I mean, every family's got to decide. And of course, remember, in many places, fireworks are not legal. So I just want to
Yeah.
be clear about that. If you're in an area where fireworks are illegal, then you shouldn't be shooting fireworks. Leave it to the pros. Go see some of the great shows that are available in, most towns and in cities in the U.S. They're a great way to enjoy it. But if you're in an area where it's legal, I view it like anything else. Are they necessary? That's one of the questions that I get. No, they're not necessary. You don't have to shoot fireworks. You can go through life and never shoot a firework and be completely happy. Are bicycles necessary? No. I mean, you could go through life and never ride a bike. I'm sure there's billions of people on the planet that do, but sure it's fun. And if you ride a bike, there's some things you need to know as a kid. One, wear a helmet. 2, when you first start, there's probably going to be some parental supervision to help you get going. Don't ride on major roads. Make sure the equipment is all, that the chain is oiled and the handlebars are on tight, and all those things. So I view it like a lot of those things. I mean, we were talking about knives. When my 4-year-old doesn't even know how to use a knife, but my 11-year-old makes us dinner some nights, and he knows how to use a knife safely so that he can chop the carrots or the onions or whatever it is he's working with. It's just like anything. Everything's dangerous. Well, not everything. Many things are dangerous that we need to do driving, and with the training and with some precautions, they can be safe and enjoyable.
All right. So, how did you get involved with your role? Because you're the VP, and it's the Missouri Pyrotechnics Association, but you
Mm-hmm.
also call it like MOpyro. Is that
Yeah, that's our
okay?
slang for it, MOpyro.
Okay.
Missouri
So, how'd
Pyrotechnics.
you get involved?
Well, so I take you back to the Salem light and the firecracker. So, I loved fireworks. My dad enjoyed them. And so we would always have them on the 4th of July. And as I got older, my cousin and I were in charge of the family, the fireworks after the family barbecue on the 4th. And, I think one year, it's about 15 years ago now. I was it was one of those years where it seemed like it was 105 degrees, but it was hot and humid, and he and I are running around and lighting stuff by hand, and just sweating, and I thought there's got to be a better way to do this, and so I think I Googled something like, how do you fuse a bunch of fireworks together? It's just so I had this vision, like maybe I could light one fuse and then sit back and watch it. Turns out you can do that. I found a website online that it was enthusiasts and professionals and hobbyists who were sharing fireworks tips and things. And then I noticed on there that they were having there was an event. It was called the St. Louis Shoot at the time. And it was a bunch of fireworks people from around the country. And they were going to get together in St. Louis, about 10 minutes from my house, in September. And they were just, hey, they're all busy. On the 4th of July, everyone's busy shooting, the pro shows that everybody goes sees, or they're doing their family shows. But in September, people had a little more time. And so I asked my wife, I said, hey, there's this fireworks thing down in Fenton, which is just a little outside of St. Louis. And, would it be okay if I went? And she's like, sure, knock yourself out. I think if she knew then what she knows now, she might have said no. And I walked out onto this field, and there's a huge, imagine 2 or 3 football fields put together, and it's just full of fireworks. And there's about 100 people there. And I walked out on the field and I thought, oh my God, it's my people. I found my people. And, I learned so much and had so much fun, and saw, people putting together, I was shooting like a firework at a time. It was the first time I saw somebody put it all together and actually make a display, something beautiful. And I thought, and I got to help on a couple of them. And I thought, this is fantastic. So I joined that event. Was put on by the Missouri Pyrotechnics Association, although many of the people there are in from, literally all over the U.S. And so I joined the association, and, fast forward 15 years and I'm the vice president.
I mean, I love when you can take something that is so dangerous in many aspects and find the beauty in it. And I will say, even though I am scarred from my experience as a child, I cannot lie and say that I don't appreciate fireworks. Like you keep saying, and they're beautiful. It is beautiful. I have seen so many different displays, and I'm just bringing up the one that is the most recent. But even with, the inauguration of our president, the latest, when you were watching it on TV, like you felt like you were there, and there's music with it, and there's these beautiful displays. Like, how did they get it to do that? And how did they get it to make it the American flag? And it is a very beautiful thing. Like, for me, I appreciate fireworks from afar. That's where
That's a great place to appreciate. And frankly,
yes.
between you and me, that's where I really appreciate them. I don't like to be up close. I like to be back and watching.
You're right. Like, there's some that fireworks are, I'm like, what is the purpose? Like, what are you doing? And, it's just whatever. We don't even go into that. But we are approaching, like I said earlier, 4th of July weekend. I think, like you said, it's a good time to just watch it from afar and go and enjoy the beauty, and just to make sure you are taking those precautions with your kids and with your pets. And before we start to talk about the big event in September. Is there a website individuals can go to maybe get some of that information for this upcoming weekend, as far as like the tips and precautions?
Yeah, definitely. And, in terms of just a few keys to helping people stay safe when they use fireworks. So a lot of the injuries are, as I was saying before, they are burns, usually to the hands, arms, or face.
Mm.
And often what happens is it's because people are not using them safely. So a couple things to know. You want to be away from people and preferably outdoors when you shoot them. I know I can't believe I have to say that, but
Oh my gosh.
and really, even for sparklers, you want to have 6 feet away from you and the next person. You don't want to be right next to each other and kind of waving them around. But the way that a lot of those injuries happen is people are holding stuff. So you should never be holding or throwing any kind of firecracker, bottle rocket, any of that. You should never aim it at anyone else. And really, you never want to even put any part of your body over a firework. So what we teach people to do is come in from the side. Your head's never over the top. You light it from the side, and then you move back. You don't run. You just turn around and walk, and then you can turn around, and you can usually get 30 feet away at least before it goes off, which is a safe distance for many of those those fireworks that people would be using. And then my other tip: have a water hose or a bucket nearby in case something goes sideways. And you have a lot of times after they light, they'll be smoldering, and you can put it out. Another tip that I would have is that if something doesn't go, sometimes you'll light it and nothing will happen. And is it not going to go? Is it still smoldering? Is it going to go later? Sometimes people will go over and then they will pick it up and then it's still lit and it goes off and now you got a problem. So you want to wait 20 minutes before you pick up anything. Just let it sit there. You can move over 5 feet and start, with the next one and then come back to that one later. And then the last thing, this is really easy. For a couple of dollars, you can get a pair of safety glasses. And, the pros, we never touch anything if we don't have safety glasses and a hard hat on. And even but safety glasses, they make them in kid sizes. They're available at Home Depot. It's $2. And if you're nowhere near the fireworks and you've got something protecting your eyes, it's really hard to get into trouble.
Coming up in September 25th to be exact, it's Sky Wars presents the 16th annual Fireworks Championship. And I will say that at first I was like, I don't understand. And then I watched a little promo about it and I'm like, oh, this goes back to the beautiful I want to watch from afar. It's a really cool thing. It's being held at the Village of Innsbruck Fireworks Field, and that's located in Wright City, Missouri. What I'd like to know a little bit about how this works. We are in the midst of a pandemic still. So I would like for you those are two questions I have for you, like address how that works and then also what the event is.
Yeah, it's the largest fireworks competition in the U.S. So we have there's a couple of parts of the show. It's 2 hours of fireworks. Which is a long time, and it consists of a series of shows. So we'll have first part of the event is what we call the Pro-Am competition, or it's called the 1.4 competition for those of us in the field. 1.4 fireworks are consumer fireworks, and so it's kind of like stock car racing. We're trying to figure out who the best choreographers are, designers of shows, and we want to put some limits on them. So you can't just you can't just have the fastest car and win the race. Everybody in stock car racing sort of has the same car. They all they're basically the same. And what's left, they think is, the skill of the driver. So what we do is we put a bunch of limits on them and we say, you're only allowed to use fireworks that are available. Basically, most of what they shoot in the competition portion is available from a tent. And you could go buy it yourself. Anyone. Mm-hmm. There's a few things that are a little more specialized that you might have to look to be able to find. And we say your show is going to be between 6 and 8 minutes, and it's got to be a pyro musical, and I'll talk about what the difference between that is and just shooting the music. And we think that what's left at the end is how good are you at matching the mood of the music and making providing an emotional reaction to it, and are you able to execute the show without any mistakes or obvious mistakes in it? And we crown a winner every year, and it's a lot of fun. This year we have 3 competitors. We have one from Wisconsin, one from Ohio, and one from Texas. So some really great talent that's coming in. Another section of the show is what we call the Unlimited. This is just an exhibition. So there's another gentleman from Ohio who is going to be putting on, an unlimited show. So he's, as many e-matches as he wants to use, as many fireworks as he wants to use, and it should be amazing. And then we have the professional part of the show. So that is display fireworks. So this is the kind of stuff that you're going to see, at a city show. And in fact, last year we shot some of the largest shells that would have been seen in North America. We had, up to 12-inch shells, and three different groups that come in, and there's no limits, and we say you can choose as much as you want. And typically, they like to shoot a lot, so those are great. And then what we're probably known for, one of the things we're known for, is our fireballs. So there's a group from Memphis. Bill Corbett is his name. They go by the Fireball Dudes, and it's gasoline fireballs, and they do these. They had one last year. It was called a Super Nuke, and it was 500 gallons of gasoline, and it made a fireball that was probably 300 feet tall. And people love it. I mean, if you look on our YouTube or Facebook, you'll see there's some amazing footage of those fireballs. So that's sort of what we're known for. So that's the event. It is like nothing you've seen. I try to explain it to people, and I can't explain it. And what I tell people is, if you come, you're going to come back, and you're going to tell all your friends, and you're going to bring them the next year. And the other thing is, if you come, it's going to ruin you for 4th of July fireworks forever. And we do not apologize for that in any way.
That's awesome.
The second part of your question was about COVID. So, how do we keep people safe? So last year we had 8,000 people there, and in September. And this year we're capped. We could put more people in, but with COVID, we want to make sure that there's room to spread out. And so we had, with the way that people wound up doing it last year, because it's outdoors, which of course one of the best things for combating COVID is be outside. It's harder to transmit outside, and people wound up having their little pods. So if it'd be a family of 4 or a family of 5, and then around that family is at least 6 feet, and then there's the next group. And so we were able to do a good job of keeping people separate. I talked to a couple of doctors that I knew that were there, and they said, you guys did a great job. We felt completely safe with our family. People had masks on. We said, we're asking you to have a mask there. We're in a part of the state at the time where there was not a mask, mandate. We got great marks. We had we didn't have any, I think the public that was there felt safe. And as I was saying, some doctors that were there said we did a good job. And so we're going to replicate that this year. We've got a few things that we'll do a little different as far as controlling some of the lines when people are in food, getting food and that sort of thing. But I think we're in store for another successful and exciting event.
And then something I wanted to bring up that we talked briefly about, but it ties back in, is the fact that you have these nonprofit partners, that one of them is directly for animals, and we talked about that. And so the other is Operation Food Search, which, especially with COVID, this is a huge need. So can you talk about those two factors?
Yeah, for the Operation Food Search and Agape, a lot of food banks were pretty depleted last year, especially at the height of the pandemic when things were first starting and we were locked down, harder. And so we wanted to do something to try to replenish those. So one of our nonprofits, we're a nonprofit ourselves at the Missouri Pyrotechnics Association, but we're trying to do good and enjoy these beautiful fireworks. So we will be collecting food and money for Agape and Operation Food Search, and then where we shoot the fireworks is on one corner of that property is the future home of the Concerned Citizens for Animal Welfare for Warren County, and they have a campaign called Raise the Woof, which I think is kind of a fun name. And so we're trying to raise money for them and their efforts for animals. I mean, obviously, animals. I say animals don't like fireworks. Some do. There's some dogs and horses that'll just sit there and not do anything, and then others don't. Just like with storms, you get a big electrical storm, and dogs don't tend to like that, and so they have to be. You just have to be aware of it.
So the event is happening on Saturday, September 25th.
Yes.
And the tickets range from $30 to $40 per person. That's general admission. And then there's an all-inclusive VIP ticket. People can go to your website and also call 314-730-0793. I will have all of this on the show description at JillDevine.com. What is the website that we would refer people to go to?
Yeah, it's skywarsevent.com.
Okay, so skywarsevent.com. That's the website. All right, final thoughts on anything that we talked about or anything we didn't talk about.
Well, besides come to Sky Wars, because we're looking forward to ruining you for fireworks. I think, enjoy those fireworks and just be smart about it this 4th. If you're going to be shooting them, I think that's fantastic. One resource that you could go to is celebratesafely.org. That's the American Pyrotechnics Association's website. They have some statistics. They have parent and teachers safety guides for fireworks. So some good resources out there if you want to read in a little more depth to some of the things we talked about today to keep your kiddos safe. And what we want is people that grew up having great experiences with fireworks, not ones that got their hands burned and are traumatized ever since.
Well, yes, that's what we all want. And
That's
I will
what
try
we all want. Yeah.
to be, I will not apologize for being an overprotective mother when it comes.
Think you should.
To that. Because I do think, that is one thing, like this is American tradition, fireworks, 4th of July. Well, it's okay to be safe. So I'm just saying, it's safety.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not okay. You have to be safe. It doesn't do anybody any good. It's not, and there's nothing that takes the fun out of fireworks faster than somebody getting hurt. So, it's the last thing we want.
Truth. Well, thank you so much, Rob. And, best of luck with the event and with the kiddos. I don't have the best of advice since I'm, the couple seasons behind you, but I think it'll all work out eventually. This is just one of those seasons, right?
Yeah, we'll get through it. It's great. Like my friends always said, it's going to go by so fast. And, I believed them, but I didn't realize just how fast it was going to go by. So we just try and be there and be present and enjoy them while we got them. That's all we can do.
On next week's episode 79, Jennifer Warman-Bloss will be joining me. She is the owner of Elemental Aesthetics in the St. Louis area, and there is something so amazing about her that I had to share with you. So a lot of times med spas and estheticians get a really bad rap, and this is not the case with Jennifer. She does so much for her clientele. She's like their therapist, their mother, their best friend, their sister, everything wrapped in one. And she truly, truly enjoys it. It fills her up. And you'll understand exactly what I mean when you tune in next week. Episodes of the podcast launch every single Wednesday. We are at that point in the episode where it is time to shout out a supermom. The supermom shout out is brought to you by Addie's Way. So the supermom will get the shout out here on the podcast and then also on social media and a custom designed supermom shirt from Addie's Way. I will tell you how to make your nominations in just a minute, but first let's shout out that supermom. This week's supermom shout out goes to Sue of Wentzville, Missouri. Her daughter Cassie nominated her and said, "My mom is amazing. She doesn't have little kids or a career anymore, but when she had a career, she was also taking care of 3 kids, and she didn't skip a beat. She babysat most of the neighborhood kids until they all started kindergarten. She is the person who taught me to be the wife and mother I have always wanted to be, and she's my best friend. Plus, she's been amazing this past year with my father's illness, which unfortunately led him to passing away recently. They were married for 50 years. Sue, I see you and I support you. So Sue, you will be getting that shirt from Lisa at Addie's Way. And if you have a supermom that you think I should shout out, just like Sue, I would love for you to email me, hello@jilldevine.com. Or you can go on to any of my socials and send me a direct message there. I will take care of the nomination either through email or through social media, whatever's easiest for you. And on the social media, you can get me on Instagram at Jill Devine and on Facebook at Jill Devine Media, and then on Twitter at Jill Devine Radio. And one last thing before you go, if you wouldn't mind subscribing, rating, and reviewing the podcast, I would greatly appreciate it, because then it gets in the hands of others. And it's just one of those things that if I can reach more people with some of the stories that you have to share, and just one person can benefit, then that's amazing. So yes, subscribe, rate, and review when you get a chance on the podcast platform of your choice. And as always, thank you for supporting 2 Kids and a Career.